but I've had an awfully nice life. I really have had.
Her voice reached straight into the heart. Her smile lit up the screens, and her name became synonymous with the Hollywood dream. Judy Garland was more than just an actress or singer. She became a symbol of hope, strength, and resilience in a world that was often cruel to her. But behind her triumphs lay tragedy. Behind the glamour of the stage were pain, exhaustion, and a constant struggle to be herself. Her life resembled the script of the most dramatic Hollywood film. Triumphs and downfalls, love and disappointment, fame and loneliness. Judy lived it all in front of millions, but no one could truly see behind the curtains of her soul. On June 10, 1922, in the tiny town of Grand Rapids, Minnesota, a girl was born who would one day become one of the most recognizable stars in Hollywood history. The town where her early childhood unfolded was quiet and seemed almost cut off from the world of great ambitions. Yet even then, people saw something extraordinary in her. From the very beginning, Judy's life was far from a fairy tale. The provincial comfort that should have surrounded a child was merely a facade. Her future was being planned, not by herself, but by her parents. Francis and Ethel Gumm were the owners of a small theater. Her father, a gentleman with a dreamy nature, had a love for the arts and wanted to see Judy as more than just a star. He loved her for who she was, not for what she might become. But her mother, Ethel, was different. Ambitious, strict, at times even ruthless, she saw her youngest daughter as a means of fulfilling her own unrealized dreams. Judy knew neither rest nor the simple joys of childhood. Her mother was already turning her life into a marathon of preparation for stardom. "You were born to shine," she would say, pushing Judy forward as she practiced tirelessly. By the time Judy was just 2.5 years old, she was already standing under the bright stage lights. Together with her older sisters, she performed as part of the trio, the Gumm Sisters. Imagine a tiny girl hesitantly standing in shoes that barely stayed on her feet, singing sincerely to the audience. She sparkled as if born for the stage. But what was happening behind the scenes? Her mother's sharp voice ordering her to sing again and again, ignoring the child's exhaustion. "You have a gift, and you must use it," Ethel would repeat, paying no attention to Judy's tears. Thus began Judy's path, radiant on the surface, but marked by pressure and early fatigue behind the scenes. In 1926, the Garland family's life was on the verge of collapse. Rumors about her father were to blame. Local townsfolk believed he was a homosexual, which became a subject of gossip in the small town of Grand Rapids. The whispers and judgment from the close-knit community turned into a threat to the family's reputation. A decision was made. They would move to California. The move was a lifeline for her parents, but not for little Judy. She lost her familiar world, her home, which had at least given her some sense of stability. In California, a new chapter began, one filled with even more ambition, more pressure, and more sacrifices. Ethel Gumm was not just Judy's mother. She became her strict manager, ensuring there were no missteps in the building of her daughter's career. Under her relentless supervision, Judy was forced to rehearse for hours, even when she was utterly exhausted. It was during this period that Ethel began giving her stimulants to keep her going and sleeping pills to help her get some rest. "Mom, it hurts," little Judy would sometimes say, but her words were rarely acknowledged. For Ethel, the stage was more important, the stage where her daughter was meant to shine. A childhood that would have been filled with care and warmth became a prison, where her mother served as both warden and conductor. Judy grew up with a deep sense of captivity, leaving a lasting scar on her soul. In 1935, when Judy was just 13 years old, her father passed away. His death was a devastating blow. Francis Gumm had been the only one who always protected her, who loved her unconditionally and without demands. Losing him left her feeling alone in a family where her mother saw her only as a means to an end. "He was my only friend," Judy later admitted when speaking about her father. His death stripped her of her last source of support, leaving her even more vulnerable in a world dominated by her mother's ambition and relentless drive. That same year, 1935, brought a significant change for Judy. She signed a contract with the legendary MGM studio. It seemed like a dream come true. A 13-year-old girl was given the chance to become a star on one of the world's biggest stages. But Hollywood didn't greet her with applause. It welcomed her with cold calculation. MGM saw Judy as the ordinary girl next door and immediately began reconstructing her to fit their standards. She was forced to lose weight through strict diets, alter her appearance, and suppress any individuality. "You're not beautiful, but you're talented," one studio executive once told her. These words echoed in Judy's mind for years, haunting her. What should have been the start of a glittering career became yet another chapter of suppression and self-doubt. Young Judy quickly learned that Hollywood was not just about the stage and the camera, but also a world of heartless exploitation. The bosses at MGM didn't hesitate to humiliate her, calling her too plump and demanding she take appetite-suppressant pills. These humiliations wounded her young soul and laid the groundwork for her future struggles with addiction. Diets, pills, and relentless pressure became a part of her life, battles she had to face alone. She smiled on screen, shining for her audience, but behind the scenes her heart was filled with bitterness. The beginning of her illustrious career turned into a tragedy. Judy was learning to navigate a world that didn't want her, only her talent. After signing the contract with MGM, Judy embarked on a series of roles designed to establish her as a star. However, Hollywood, famous for its unforgiving beauty standards, was unkind to her. She was branded as the girl next door, in stark contrast to the glamorous divas adored by the public. "She's not beautiful, but she has something that touches the heart," producers would say. These words, intended as praise, became a painful reminder to Judy that she would never be the ideal of Hollywood. Constant comparisons to the industry's celebrated beauties fostered a deep sense of inadequacy. She longed to be loved for who she was, but her personality was increasingly molded to fit the studio's expectations, and her unique talent was used to justify the inhumane treatment she endured. In her youth, Judy experienced her first romantic feelings for pianist Jack Levy. It was a tender, innocent love that brought her fleeting moments of happiness, but MGM saw no benefit in it. The studio, which controlled every aspect of her life, ended their relationship, claiming that love would distract her from her career. "You can't afford to be an ordinary girl," the executives told her. Judy's heart was broken, and it became another painful lesson. Even her personal life was not her own. The year 1939 was a turning point in Judy's career. She was cast in the lead role of Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. This project showcased her talent to the entire world, transforming the 17-year-old girl into a symbol of Hollywood. The song "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" became her signature piece, imbued with sincerity and hope. But behind the scenes, the magic of the film turned into torment. Judy was forced to adhere to a strict diet consisting of coffee, cigarettes, and appetite-suppressant pills. She was made to work to the point of exhaustion, and to achieve the perfect look, she was dressed in tightly fitted costumes designed to make her appear younger. Despite the film's brilliance, the reality was far darker. Judy later admitted that filming The Wizard of Oz was one of the most challenging periods of her life. Following the film's overwhelming success, MGM tightened its grip not only on Judy's career, but also on her personal life. Her image had to be flawless, which meant that every role, every step, and every public smile was dictated by the studio's producers. Judy was stripped of her autonomy. She was forbidden to refuse roles, interact with friends outside the studio circle, or express any form of dissent. Any attempt to push back was seen as a threat to the business. She became a studio prisoner, a young girl longing for freedom but trapped in a gilded cage. The years that should have been spent shaping her identity became a struggle for survival in a system that admired her talent but dismissed her as a person. Early in her career, Judy was confronted with the brutal reality of Hollywood. MGM forced her to take stimulants to endure the grueling filming schedules and sleeping pills to get even a brief rest. These pills became a fixture of her daily life, gradually destroying her health and psyche. As a young girl, Judy was powerless to resist. She was too young and too dependent on the studio to say no. "The pills became my norm," she later recalled. Behind the screen's enchanting magic lay a hidden tragedy, an industry that turned a young star into a tool and broke her from within. These dependencies laid the groundwork for future struggles that would forever alter the course of her life. Hollywood was making Judy a star, but it was stealing something that should have been a natural stage in every person's life: her youth. She grew up too fast. Her work schedules, packed to the brim, left only time for rehearsals, filming, and meeting with producers. "I had no friends, no school, no joys," Judy said. While her peers were enjoying their teenage years, she was forced to live in a world where any misstep could lead to scandal. Every action, every emotion was carefully planned and controlled. She was losing the years that should have been filled with happiness in order to achieve goals that didn't always bring her joy. By the late 1930s, Judy Garland had become one of America's most beloved actresses. Her name was known in every household, and the films she starred in were box office sensations. The song, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," had turned her into a symbol of hope and dreams for millions. But even then, her on-screen smile masked inner struggles. While the industry was tearing her apart from the inside, the love of the audience gave her a reason to keep going. She drew strength from the applause, letters from fans, and their belief in her talent. This period marked her first small victory. Judy realized that her power wasn't just in the system, but in her uniqueness, in her ability to touch the hearts of viewers. After the success of The Wizard of Oz, Judy solidified her status as one of Hollywood's leading stars. Films such as Ziegfeld Girl, 1941, and Presenting Lily Mars, 1943, cemented her place as a superstar. She became the face of a new generation of MGM performers, a symbol of musical cinema that brought joy to audiences during times of war and change. Her work schedule was so grueling that Judy began to experience physical and emotional exhaustion. Each day was a battle to meet the industry's expectations. Despite her success, MGM continued to insist on altering her appearance. Producers labeled her an ugly duckling, forcing her to wear corsets, eat minimal portions, and conform to beauty standards she never accepted. These humiliations not only eroded her self-confidence, but made her question her worth as a person. Judy struggled against this pressure, trying to preserve what little remained of her identity. To audiences, her struggles felt deeply personal. Many saw themselves in her, relating to the same pain of not living up to others' expectations. The poignant contrast between the radiant Judy on screen and the real Judy, plagued by doubt and pain, made her even more beloved. Every film she made, every song she sang, was an act of defiance, a fight for the right to be herself. Audiences admired her talent, unaware of the cost behind her brilliance. By the 1940s, Judy's dependence on stimulants and sleeping pills had spiraled out of control. The pills, once seemingly necessary to sustain her incredible productivity, began to destroy her health. Mornings were filled with drugs to charge her for the day's filmings, while nights required sedatives just to get a few hours of sleep. This vicious cycle became her prison. She lived a life dictated by producers, the studio, and societal expectations, never her own. Her health deteriorated. Her body rebelled, but the system demanded more. Behind the glow of her fame, a slowly unraveling person was hidden, and the audiences who adored her talent had no idea of the price she paid. In 1944, Judy landed one of the most memorable roles of her career in the film Meet Me in St. Louis. This project became not only a commercial triumph, but also an emotional milestone for her. Her rendition of the song Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas quickly became a classic, touching the hearts of millions. The film served as a temporary refuge, a ray of light that seemed to give her life meaning. Yet even as she shone on screen, Judy continued to grapple with her inner demons. The audience saw a talented actress, but behind the scenes, Judy was slipping away from herself, struggling to hold on in a world that left her with no real choices. By the late 1940s, Judy's life had descended into chaos. Nervous breakdowns, brought on by physical and emotional exhaustion, became more frequent. Her clashes with producers grew loud and unmanageable. After a series of disappointing projects, Judy made the bold decision to leave MGM, the studio that made her a star, but also turned her life into a constant battle. The departure was an act of liberation, but it also left her without stability. Without the studio's support, Judy faced her problems alone. Her financial situation worsened, and her personal life became increasingly tangled. This moment marked a turning point in her story. The attempt to protect herself and her individuality was a tragic step that led to new challenges. Audiences saw her not only as a star, but also as a vulnerable human being, trying to find herself in a world that constantly dictated its rules. In 1941, Judy Garland married composer David Rose, hoping to find stability in a life perpetually controlled by MGM. She made this decision despite the producer's objections, as they viewed marriage as a threat to her career. However, Judy did not find the happiness she sought. At MGM, it wasn't just cameras at work, but also cruel mechanisms of control. When Judy became pregnant, the studio forced her to have an abortion, claiming that motherhood would ruin her on-screen image. This event was a devastating shock for Judy, and later for the audiences who learned of the tragedy. Judy wanted to be a wife and mother, but the system denied her even that right. Judy's second marriage to director Vincente Minnelli in 1945 seemed like a promise of newfound happiness. In 1946, the couple welcomed their daughter, Liza Minnelli, who would later become an iconic figure in her own right, just like her mother. This period marked a rare moment of harmony for Judy. She relished the joys of motherhood and the support of her husband. However, the emotional instability caused by years of pressure from the industry and her personal struggles began to strain their relationship. Judy wrestled with depression and dependency, which took a toll on their marriage. The joy of her daughter's birth was overshadowed by the realization that even within her family, she couldn't find the long-awaited peace she so desperately sought. After her divorce from Minnelli in 1951, Judy continued her search for love. Her third marriage to producer Sidney Luft lasted from 1952 to 1965 and became both a personal and professional partnership. Luft played a key role in helping Judy revive her career, supporting her through difficult times. However, their relationship was fraught with conflicts and scandals, including allegations of alcoholism and domestic violence. Her fourth marriage to actor Mark Herron also ended in heartbreak. After a brief period of passion, Judy discovered her husband's infidelity, another blow to her fragile faith in love. Judy's quest for love often felt like a battle for the warmth and security she could never quite find. She longed to be cherished and protected, but instead she faced new wounds and betrayals at every turn. Despite the instability and personal struggles, Judy always strove to be a caring mother. Her three children, Liza Minnelli, Lorna Luft, and Joey Luft, often remembered her as someone who, despite her inner demons, loved them deeply. Liza Minnelli, who became a legend of stage and screen in her own right, described her mother as both an inspiration and a source of worry. "She was both my best friend and my greatest concern," Liza admitted. Judy's maternal love was one of the few bright spots in her life. These warm moments stood in stark contrast to her personal tragedies, adding depth and poignancy to her legacy. In 1968, Judy made the decision to move to London. She hoped that a change of scenery would bring her peace and help her revive her career. Britain greeted her with curiosity and warmth, but the promise of a fresh start soon gave way to new problems. Financial difficulties continued to plague her, and her health deteriorated further. London, which she had envisioned as a sanctuary, became yet another source of disappointment. Her hope for a brighter future transformed into another trial, adding a bittersweet layer of regret to her life. In March 1969, Judy married musician Mickey Deans. It was her fifth and final marriage. Mickey genuinely tried to support her, caring for her and encouraging her to embrace a new beginning. However, their union seemed more like a desperate attempt by Judy to find solace and love in the final months of her life. This marriage reflected her unyielding desire to be needed and loved, even as time was slipping away. By 1969, Judy was on the brink of bankruptcy. Her mounting debts, ongoing legal battles, and inability to secure a stable income had become a constant reality. Her belongings had been sold off, and her debts were so overwhelming that she couldn't even afford to pay rent. A global icon whose name was known to millions was now forced to live in poverty. Years of stress, substance abuse, and overwork had finally destroyed Judy's health. By this time, she was suffering from serious heart issues, and her frail appearance was evident to everyone who saw her. Her exhaustion was visible not only in her physical condition, but also in her eyes. Her fans, who loved her deeply, understood that her body and spirit could no longer bear the weight she had carried since her youth. In March 1969, Judy Garland performed her final concert in Copenhagen. Her health was already in critical decline, yet she tried to radiate the same energy on stage that she had during her golden years. Every song felt like a personal confession, every note charged with the raw emotions she was experiencing in the final months of her life. Her fans saw an exhausted woman, but they admired her indomitable spirit and her extraordinary determination to stay connected to her audience until the very end. Judy Garland spent her final days in a rented house in London with her fifth husband, Mickey Deans. She lived in seclusion, far from the friends and colleagues who had once surrounded her. Judy often reflected on her life, spoke of plans for the future, and dreamed of new projects. Yet her words increasingly carried tones of bitterness and disappointment. Her life, filled with brilliant moments and heavy losses, was quietly drawing to a close. On June 22, 1969, Judy Garland was found dead in her home. The cause of death was an overdose of barbiturates. Officially, her death was ruled accidental, though discussions about whether it may have been intentional continue to this day. Thousands of people, fans, colleagues, and friends attended Judy's funeral to pay their final respects. Her name once again made headlines as the world mourned the loss of one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Her farewell became a symbol of her legacy. Judy Garland was more than an actress or a singer. She was a testament to the fight for self-worth, for a place in a world that had often been unkind to her. The world grieved, but it also celebrated the privilege of witnessing her talent, her resilience, and her timeless voice, which continues to inspire people to this day.